Hello and welcome to Season 2 of the Chai Break podcast. This is your host, Shweta Ravishankar.
And Ramachari from New York City. This season, we're excited to interview a roster of amazing South Asian women who have broken barriers, questioned norms, and continue to make a mark for themselves.
They come to you from all over the globe, from Bangalore to New York, Melbourne, and everywhere in between. We hope you enjoy these conversations as much as we do and chime in along the way.
So let's get started.
Hello. Welcome to the Chai Break podcast from a very chilly New York City.
Hi, everybody. Yes, today's actually yesterday was even more chilly and rainy. And today seems to be a little chilly outside too.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're heading into the holiday season and we're heading straight into the winter. Let's see what the rest of the few months have.
Yep.
But today's episode is going to be an amazing one. It's all about how one woman's mission to share the truth turned into a 40,000 strong following. Wow. That's amazing. So we're going to give a very warm welcome to Divya Soneji, who's the founder of South Asian Nation on Instagram. So Divya actually has made gender inclusivity, fighting the patriarchal system, breaking stigma, supporting marginalized voices, and curating South Asian content as her life mantra through the South Asian Nation. One of the main traits and what I really love about her, and after seeing her Instagram, is that she's unapologetically herself. And she uses this platform and voice for the greater good. And getting 40,000 strong followers, come on, that's not a normal feat. That's a big feat.
Yeah.
So Divya is here with us today to share her story. Hi, Divya. How are you?
Hi, ladies. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Oh my God. I had a lot of tongue twisters when I was telling about inclusivity.
No, I completely understand. I have one of those too.
I unapologetically apologize for that.
So Divya, to get started, you grew up in India and just like us. So what were those growing up years like? And what were some of your influences? Because you're so brave and you're so bold. Were you always like this? Did circumstances change that over time? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so I grew up in very small town then, a big town now, Gurgaon, which is very close to Delhi. And I belong to other backward caste, so would like to mention that. And used to live in old Gurgaon in a rented home with my parents. Both of my parents worked, and we were poor. When I say poor, it's literally an understatement. We had food on the table because I had my grandparents living close to us, so we had help that way, but we had struggles. Like when you hear from people, or when you see it on TV, that one of those dialogues where people are like, oh yeah, I'm one of those kids who studied under the street lamp. I am that kid.
Oh, wow.
You've come a long way. You've come a long way.
Yes.
So that's amazing.
Yes. So I've been that kid, but also talking about how I am the way I am now, it definitely my circumstances shaped me that way. Because there was a time when my father wasn't working and my mother had to work overtime to, make money for the family and, bring food on the table and everything else, and to pay the fees for our school and pay the rent of the house. And I remember she was making 500 rupees every month, and we were making it work in that money in the 19s.
Gosh, wow.
Yeah.
I think people in the audience who haven't been been raised in India should start converting what 500 rupees really translates to in dollars. And they'll get the significance of it.
Yeah. That's pretty remarkable. Yeah.
And so I think when my parents were away and we would come back from school, we just had to take care of ourselves for the rest of the day. So I think we learned how to live the life and, navigate around circumstances and challenges. And, even at times when it used to rain a lot and our house was literally below the main surface of the street, So it would be flooded every time, and the water of the gutter and garbage, everything. And me and my brother would just like swim in it and clean the whole house out when our parents won't be home. So we learned our ways, I think, growing up. And then luckily when my father found his standing in life and we started, we he made a decent money after that. And then I was sent to Delhi to study. It's not a big deal for a lot of people, but for me, it was a big town. And I used to be from Gurgaon, where nothing was developed by then. It was 2003. Nothing was there. And my father took me to a bus station, like the local roadways bus stand. And he showed me a bus and he said, "This is the bus you're going to take 7 o'clock in the morning. And then you're going to figure out which bus you're going to take back home."
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
So I said, okay. And then, of course, he sent me to a college which was full of rich kids. I was the only kid who was traveling by, public transport. Everyone else had their drivers driving them around. And again, I used to walk miles and kilometers to reach my college from the bus stand. So it was definitely interesting journey.
Yeah.
So I feel like all the circumstances and everything that I've, seen in life and been through has changed me into this person. And I could not be anyone else but me.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And even now, like coming to the US, it has changed everything. Well, we can get to that later.
Yes. No, definitely. Because from India, from that little town in Gurgaon, all the way to, the US and the birth of South Asian nation, how did all of that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's very important. So when I moved here, as soon as I moved here, I felt sick. I had a really bad allergy to ibuprofen, and I was, bedridden for like 6 months. And it happened from September to March, which was, beginning of snow, and I wasn't able to walk. I wasn't able, and even during doctor's visit, I wasn't able to wear shoes because I had blisters on my feet.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was hard, like another learning experience for me as soon as I got here. And during that time, I had a lot to, retrospect about my life and what I want to do. So I always wanted to start something that would inspire people. And but the problem was, whoever I spoke to and whoever I came across in the US, from South Asian background or Indian people who are born here, first generation American kids in diaspora. One thing that I noticed that they love the culture, but they don't know the problems.
Right.
I mean, yes, they have familial problems in their families, which are, yes, it's a part of the culture, but they don't know the grassroots problems that happens at the homeland. But I just didn't want to cover India. I wanted to cover the whole South Asia because we have the same story. We have the same trauma.
Pretty similar culture. Yeah.
Yes. And in terms of food, and in terms of clothing, in terms of politics, religion, everything, it's just we had the same struggles. So
Right.
I wanted to bridge that gap and raise awareness about and start conversations about casteism, colorism, mental health, especially in our culture,
Right.
and how it's perceived, and also women's health in India, especially in villages, and how it is even now.
Yeah.
So I think I've covered array of topics,
Yes.
how to even count. But that was the reason I wanted to start South Asian Nation.
No, I remember the early days when I actually discovered you and then South Asian Nation on Instagram. And I've learned a big deal, a very big deal about many different things, especially like the nuances of casteism, and I think in the kind of bubble that I grew up in, like I had friends from everywhere, but I don't think I gave importance to caste because I was just like, you're my friend, I don't care where you're from. But then like when you are from a lower caste and you do have those, the other kind of experience, it is very important to speak out And it then becomes more important for people like us to, educate ourselves about it,
Yes.
and say that, yes, maybe I did not see it happening or I did not view it that way, but no, there are people who are dealing with these kind of issues every single day. And bringing those people to the platform was something so important. And you did that so beautifully, so eloquently. So kudos to you for that.
Thank you.
Divya, so I think one of the wonderful things about our podcast is we interview some amazing women, and everybody has this beautiful story. I think everybody in this world has a story.
Yes.
But how many people actually tell their story to the world? And that's kind of where you stand out, where you pretty much use your background to tell your story to the world. So it's not just easy to just come to the US and just get up and just start an Instagram page. I mean, I'm sure you mentioned they were motivated, but what was the real driver? Like, what just like, were there experiences in your childhood that said, like, I need to tell people what this is all about? Or were there experiences here in the US, particularly? Like, I mean, there's always a big reason why one just jumps up and just starts a beautiful page like this and just starts educating people. So I want to just dig a little bit deeper into what were those drivers.
Absolutely. Wow. Amazing question, Rima. So I would start with casteism because that is something I've never said publicly. So when I was growing up, I was a kid who wanted to fit in because, I knew I was talented. I knew I could make friends. But in my town, people would ask your caste before they would ask your name. For example, they would be like, oh, so which caste are you? Is it Kshatriya? Is it this? Is it that? So I started lying about my caste. I started telling them, oh, my name is Divya Verma and I am a Kshatriya or something. I never wanted to share about my caste because they would not let me be friends with them. They wouldn't want me to be in their group. And even though I had a lot of issues in my life, I was a cool kid. So, also another thing was I was a bit light skinned, and with people usually have this, misconception that people with backward caste or lower caste, they have to be darker skin and they have to live in a certain area. And they did. In my town, people from backward caste or lower caste, they lived in a certain area. But for me, we did not. We lived in a neighborhood, even though it was not that great, but we lived in a neighborhood where there were Punjabis and Sikh people. So even they did not know my caste.
I just want to say that I cannot imagine having to think about all of that at such a young age. You first of all just figuring out what this whole world is all about, and to get into those nitty-gritty nuances.
Yeah,
that must have been really hard.
absolutely. And guess what? When I started talking about my caste, it's because of my father. When I grew up after college and everything, my father was very involved in our community service. So he actually built a temple for the people of my community so that they can go to that temple and they would not be kicked out.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. So he did a lot. And because of him, I learned that I'm not going to hide my identity. So when I came to the US, that's what I realized, that this is my time. I'm at a place where I see casteism creeping in families, but here I am trying to hide it from the world. But now is the time that I'm going to tell the world that I am from backward caste and this is my reality and this is how I grew up and I'm going to change that. And that's how the discussion about casteism started. And then fat phobia, that's what I've actually gone through within my marriage. Even when I met my, ex-husband, he's very handsome. He's tall, he's athletic, he's very American looking, Korean. He's Indian, but he looked very Korean. So when he met me, I was a larger body. I was more than 200 pounds. So he decided to get married to me then. But when I lost weight and I came to America, I lost weight a little bit, not too much. So I got a lot of fat phobic comments that, oh, don't you do portion control? When you eat, you just keep eating and stuff like that. And I never heard anything like that in my life before because my confidence level in India was off the roof. I used to think that I was hot and sexy and whatever. But when I got married, everything came crashing down. Everything. And that's what and I did not even make sense of a lot of things that maybe that's how they are because everyone in their family is like, slim and petite and all of that. So I did my best to, even during my blisters, I was not able to walk. I still walked on a treadmill bare feet to start my journey of losing weight so that I could make my husband happy or my family happy or my in-laws happy. But he was never happy even after that. So, and I started working out a lot. And to show him that, I'm here for change. I'm here to change this. But even when I lost substantial amount of weight and I got down to like 150 or 145 pounds, he was still not happy.
Wasn't quite enough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not enough. Like, I've seen you fat. Now you're the fat one for me. You cannot be the slim girl for me. Like your image is set in my head, kind of. And I lived with my in-laws. That's another issue because I'm from North. They're from Gujarat. So we always have this kind of little bit of misunderstanding in the families. And it happens. It's very, very common in our culture.
It is.
Yeah. So all of that, of course, to get out of all that, I had to start, looking for jobs. And I was told that, oh, you just moved to America. You cannot get a job unless you work in retail. I said, I'm not working in retail. I will not. That's not my talent. I always used to, it's not that retail is a bad job. No job is a wrong job. But for me, in my head, as an Indian mind, I would be like, no, I'm talented. I'm going to get a job in my industry. I'm going to get a job in digital marketing or wherever I will. And I worked hard every day. I would wake up at 7 in the morning and till 5 o'clock, I would just apply for jobs. And finally, I found a job. I worked there as a digital marketing manager, and that's how I started working.
Yeah, no, I think this is, one of the things I had in my notes was when we talk about the immigrant experience, it's always about, they're so successful, blah, blah, blah. But nobody actually talks about the trajectory, and how you kind of followed your dream. You worked really, really hard for it. You started at I once shared on Instagram, you started at an hourly rate of like $8 in your first job. And it was, and today you earn six figures. So those kind of stories, they should inspire people. And this is something we really, really need to talk about because I feel like in today's society, especially here in America, it's something very common, right? You just go to college and you just get a really good job and it's boom, 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 boom. But like for immigrants who come here and make their mark the hard way, they value all of that so much more. And I think another thing you mentioned about was, you were talking about your ex-husband. And I remember you sharing on Instagram, when you separated from your husband and, I remember in our conversation, you talked about the kind of responses you got from across the board. I bring this up only because I feel like it's still a big taboo in our society. And this is something that, before we dive into, what your experience has been like, I think we really, really need to acknowledge and credit women like you everywhere who, are bold enough because the amount of courage it takes to actually get out of a marriage or relationship that is not working is commendable because it's not something everyone can do. And, as especially in our culture, once you get married and especially if there are kids involved, like women just go through it, put up with it for years and decades on end. And they don't even see that as an option because they want to stay for the kids, So to do all of that and finally say that, I want to choose myself and my happiness and if I'm not happy, then, I can't give whether it's to a job, whether it's to friends, whether it's to family, I really cannot, give my all.
Yeah.
So yeah, just please share, what your experience has been. Like, it's really eye-opening, and it's something we should talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would start from like how my marriage has been that led me to this. So I never had a marriage, basically. I was married to a guy. I thought I was, but I don't think so. He was married to me. And it was, I think we were more like roommates than a husband and wife. For me, we were married for 7 years, which is not a long time, but also not a very short time. And leaving my country, my people, my career only for him, moving here, starting from scratch. I think he could never, I don't think so. Men have that wired in their head that a woman, they can literally move countries and mountains for you and you will never realize it why. But well, it happened. And I feel like I kept trying for 7 years. There were a lot of like family interventions for, his behavior and my behavior, whatever. Because of course, you're the daughter-in-law, you will be questioned. And to make it work, we even bought a house just to see that, how committed I am. Like, I'm so new to America. And I worked hard in 2020 and through 2021, saved enough money to give him that down payment from my savings for the house. It's not like he bought the house, we bought the house. And the same week we bought the house, my brother died because of COVID in India. So I'm glad he was there for me emotionally. But sometimes you need more intimacy in your marriage. And I could not receive any. And I am a person who respects people's boundaries and space a lot. So I never push myself on my husband at all. And it's been 1 year we lived in that house, and starting this year, I just separated myself sleeping with him completely, because sleeping with someone that you love and you feel neglected and ignored, and they would not touch you or they would not show you the love that you want, the kind of love that you want, it's insulting. It's so lonesome, and it's not a good space to be in. So we were sleeping separately since the beginning of the year. We were doing our own thing. We were making our own, like he. I think I miss about him right now is, as soon as I would wake up in the morning, my tea would be ready. So that's what I miss. Now I have to make it. But
talk about the life you've built after, right? I mean, you are so strong, so courageous. I have to give you so much kudos to that, because, you've come out of it so much stronger than you ever knew. And I think every day you're realizing your strengths, even now.
I did not know that though.
Right.
Because I've never lived alone in my life. I lived with my parents all through my life, even during college. And then moved here, lived with my in-laws, then lived with my husband. I have never lived alone. And of course, I was scared. I cried a lot. And when I moved, the day I moved, I realized, holy shit, this is liberating.
Right.
It felt free. It hurt me, but it felt free to another level. I could not even describe how it felt. I could really breathe. Yes, I had to do things on my own now. I still don't drive a car because of my accident anxiety, but I am happy to work hard, and I'm happy to do things alone that would make me uncomfortable rather than being ignored by a person I love. So he's out of the picture now. And this is me. It's my time. And I have my 2 cats who keep me sane. I have beautiful friends who, keep a check on me. But I could not describe how I feel right now. This is beyond words.
You chose yourself,
Yes.
Divya. You chose yourself. Finally, you chose yourself. Self love, and we've talked about this in one of our episodes. Self love is probably the highest form of love because once you get to the point of absolutely loving yourself, you just absolutely, there's no other way but to love everybody else. So that's great. I mean, because it's not an easy thing growing up in India. And we've talked about this before as well, that choosing yourself can come across as selfish. Oh, you're breaking this marriage because you feel that you need these things or you feel. But actually, it is the most highest form of love,
Hmm.
you know, so choosing yourself. So kudos to that. I think we all have some experiences that we can relate to
Hmm.
with your story as well. Yeah.
Mhm.
No,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one thing my ex-husband told me when I asked him that, why couldn't you love me? And he said, no, you were loved and you were accepted, but not how you wanted it. I said, okay, well, that's my closure. Because
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're not giving me the kind of love that I need to really be myself, then that's not love. And you
That's
have an
true.
if and buts in the love.
Hmm.
Sorry,
Yeah.
call me whatever, romantic, but that's the kind of love I want.
No, and I just feel like irrespective of relation, like whether it's a spousal relationship, whether it's a friendship, if you have ifs and buts and conditions,
Mhm,
to love a person,
mhm.
you're truly not letting that person be themselves.
Yes.
And when you close out that pathway to growth in
Mhm.
any form of relationship, I just feel like you're kind of closing the doors right there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and it's happened ever since I've moved out. It's not long ago that I moved out. It's been like 2 months.
Hmm.
One thing that I've noticed that I've let people who are very close to me go
Yeah.
because, first of all, if you do not understand my life and how my emotions ran and how I make my decisions as a friend, if you don't understand and you don't stand by me for that, you're not a friend. I
Hmm.
don't care how old a friend you are and how
Hmm.
much you've helped me. If you're not here now, my journey becomes something so beautiful that your presence won't even matter.
Hmm. No, it's funny because I relate to this because I was just Dia, my daughter, is 7, right? And she was talking about this girl in her class that, is mean to her or something like that. And I was just thinking about it. And I'm like, you know what, Dia? As you get older, you have fewer friends. But you know how magical that is? Because those are the people who'll stick with you no matter what.
Yes.
So I just like, that's the thing, right? And I feel like
Mm.
that's also the beauty of growing old and the wisdom you gain, and it's again, it's a liberating feeling.
Hmm.
You're just like, okay, I feel lighter now.
Yes,
Because you
absolutely.
you want to have that 1, 2, 3 people who you can just be, unapologetically yourself, and no one's judging you for it, right?
Not at all. Yeah, I think as we grow old, it's also hard to make new adult friendships.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've been blessed enough to have, just a handful of friends who are not only, they are non-judgmental, but they are just so mindful of my time,
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of love they give me is the kind of love I need.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy when I announced on social media that, I'm finally formally, physically moved out.
Mm-hmm.
You won't believe how many women reached out to me who are already going through a divorce. They are my friends. They are my childhood friends. They are my friends who I've worked with. No one knew their stories. And all I see them playing with their kids and going on with their life. And the one response that I got from all of them, and none of them know each other. Like one of them lived in India, one of them here, one of them somewhere else. The collective response was that we are happy
Mm-hmm.
that we are not in that marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And that gave me a lot of assurance. For me, I don't have a kid. Thank God I don't have a kid somehow. And for them to say that we've been married to that guy for like 14 years or whatever years, we have daughters and sons with them, but we're still happy to
Mm-hmm.
fight this fight
Yeah.
because this is our time. We are going to get that back. And I have never been more inspired in my life. And that was the time I am like, you know what? Fuck it. I am going to do whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
I am done with that feeling of being neglected. I'm going to give the love that I need myself.
Yeah, no, that's so true. So after all this life experience and all of this that you've gone through, what, according to you, are, say, 5 things that women, and especially immigrant women everywhere, should really focus on, to kind of just get them through the good and the bad times?
Self-growth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very important to sit with yourself and try to retrospect life, because your life has changed. You've moved here, your life has changed. And from personal experiences, I learned a lot about myself. Because, if I get into the technicality, there are a lot of women who cannot work for a year. What are you going to do? So try to get into activities that would make you out of the house. Try to go to meetups where women from the same background meet. That's what I did. I met women from different backgrounds. I met friends. I made acquaintances. Try to find your passion, be it writing, be it cooking, be it, just going to a gym even.
Mm-hmm.
But try to get out of the house. Start making your own rules, make your own checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Because unfortunately, we have to start learning driving again here. So everything starts from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
But prioritize yourself. If you have to learn a skill or two, seek out help, because a lot of us, we don't seek help, and it's hard for us to navigate sometimes alone. um, I reached out to people for help. I found out my passion was just to put myself out there with everything that I have, everything that I am. And I did that from, I started blogging from my personal page, and then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
South Asian Nation was created. But self growth is going to go a long way, even when you find your, foot in the ground and you're thriving in your life. But just try to be yourself. Don't ever merge in, ever. You find your place, your niche as a person.
Mm-hmm.
That's most important, because otherwise you're just going to be another brown person.
Yep. Yep.
And you don't want that.
Yeah.
If you have a voice, raise it. This is a country where at least you won't be killed if you raise a voice. So I remember one of the examples when George Floyd, murder happened. I went of course, I shared a lot on social media.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And also I went to the protest in Chicago. And one of my friends told me that, you're not a citizen yet. You cannot, this is not your right. I said, who told me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who told you? I'm not a citizen, but I am paying my taxes in this country. I'm a resident.
Mm-hmm.
It's a human right.
It's a human
Yes,
right. Yeah.
it's my right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a favor that America is doing on me by me being quiet. That's bullshit. I am going to go and raise my voice for whoever I support.
Yeah.
And no one can stop me, be it. And so this myth about you're not an American citizen, so you cannot have a voice. Yes, you have a voice and you can raise it.
Yeah.
No one's going to come after you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are great words of wisdom right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's all that I've, done in my life and gone through. I know, of course, my mom is my biggest inspiration. Oh my gosh, the kind of woman she is, I am literally an ant in front of her right now. That I'm still learning how to be her.
Yeah.
And yes, like, if you're an immigrant woman, reach out to another immigrant woman.
Yeah, no, I think community is everything. Actually, I was talking to someone else recently, and as I was saying the word community, I just realized it's community to unite,
Yeah.
So unite with your tribe, like we say on the Chai Break podcast all the time, right? The kind of women we bring on is, we say it's your vibe, your tribe, and that's what it is all about. So thank you so much for these words of wisdom. And with that, we wrap up this episode. And if you want to learn more about all of the work, amazing work that Divya does through South Asian Nation, check out South Asian Nation on Instagram. And we leave the link in the show notes as well.
Thank you, Divya. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, ladies. It was amazing.
And keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Of course you will.
You too.
You are unstoppable.
Yes.
Yes. That's the song I'm going to play right now in the morning.
It's amazing. Thank you so much. So until next time, everyone. Bye.
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 You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Do continue to give us your valuable feedback via ratings, reviews, and hit the subscribe or follow button so you don't miss out on our new episodes.
Your support means the world to us. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at chai_break_podcast to get the scoop on our latest episodes dropping every Wednesday. You can also write to us at chaibreakpodcast@gmail.com.